bet you can't see, I've got a huge stack of books next to me. I'll move up a bit. Right. I am a great believer in reading to children and children reading themselves. I think there's lots to be learned from books. And there's lots of historical fiction out there for children. Some of it's historical because it was written back then, and some of it is written now, set whenever, and children learn without realising they're learning because they're absorbed in the story, human interest, and they just pick up the historical bits and bobs without even realising. So today I'm going to talk about Jacqueline Wilson historical fiction. I'm not going to say what the storyline is. The Hetty Feather books, I did a video already detailing what's in them books, the storyline, so I'll link that video below. But because I'm talking about books today from a homeschool perspective and historical fiction perspective, what's in them history-wise. But all these books are very engaging. All of them have themes in them like loss, abandonment, family ties, female emancipation, just all kinds of human interest themes going on in there to keep children entertained. It's a spellbinding stories, but we're just going to talk about what's in them historically today. I'll start off with the two we haven't read yet, because I'm going to be the briefest as I can with these, because there's two I haven't read yet. The first one is Clover Moon, and the one after it is Rose Rivers. We haven't read these yet, but they're on the bookshelf. I'm waiting for someone to pick them. So I'll just read you what's on the back for these two, because, like I say, we haven't read them yet. But the Jacqueline Wilson, they're bound to be amazing. So, Clover Moon. Clover Moon lives in a grimy back street of Victorian London with 6 younger siblings, her weary father and her sharp-tongued, uncaring stepmother. Sparky and imaginative, Clover is quick to learn her letters and loves to paint or draw, but despite her talents, she is condemned to life as a household skivvy. Then a chance meeting with an artist gives her an inspiring glimpse of another world and an idea of how she might find it. So, same Victorian times. The second one, because I believe they're linked, I believe Clover Moon is in this one as well. Rose Rivers. Rose Rivers, the daughter of a famous artist, isn't content with staying at home like other Victorian young ladies. She longs to leave her grand London house behind and follow in her twin brother's footsteps, studying at boarding school. When she makes 2 very unsuitable new friends, the nursery maid, Clover Moon, and her father's bohemian protege, Paris Walker, Rose finds a way to escape her dull life and start following her dreams. So another Victorian one. It sounds like it's got class structure in it. Women's repression and all that. Right, so this is Opal Plume. If you want your child to read it themselves, this is aimed at an older child, but because I read it to them, my children, my older 2 who were 7 and 9, but the 7-year-old's very advanced in his listening skills. So, but if you want him to read it themselves, this one's set at more pre-teens, I think. Opal Plume. Now, this is set just before World War One and a little bit of World War One. So you've got World War One in there. You've got how men felt like they were cowards if they didn't sign up for the army straight away in World War One. How people reckoned it was their duty and they was going on a massive adventure and it'd all be over by Christmas and all that lot. The justice system. How people viewed you if you lived together and you weren't married then. What happened if all of a sudden the father wasn't there and the mother had to earn money, scholarships, child labour, the class structure again, of friendships. That's human interest into that's not historic history, but anyway, Opal Plume. And it's quite a big one, that one. So, Wave Me Goodbye. This is set just before World War II is declared and a little bit into World War II. It talks about the women who were affected by World War I and how they were upset when World War II started. It talks about evacuees, why they had the evacuee scheme, what the evacuees could take with them when they went to stay in the country, the whole process of being selected when they got to the country, having to muck in, get used to each other, all that. Again, rich and poor. There's lots of, and all of these books have language in that's appropriate to the time, and you know, products, things children are into that's appropriate to the time. The father being in the army, books she liked to read, things like that. That's a good one. We really enjoyed that one, actually. We enjoyed them all, but Queeny. Queenie's set in the 1950s, 1953, and during this book, our current Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, has her coronation, and it talks about that, how people were excited, how television was quite a new thing then, and people were sharing tellies and huddling in people's front rooms to watch the coronation. It talks about TB, how they treated TB then, how it was a big thing, TB then, how you was viewed if you had a child out of wedlock. Again, class structure, and this one was quite sweet. So we're on to the Hetty Feather books now. Like I say, I have got another video which tells you the storyline, if you want to know the storyline. And there's 6 books in the series. So the first one's Hetty Feather. This one talks about the Foundling Hospital, which took in abandoned babies, which was a real place. It's a museum now, you can go and see it in London. Why some of those babies were abandoned, because they was born out of wedlock or the mother was poor or whatever. Life in the country, village life in the country, the class system again, how they thought that being a servant was quite a good thing because it meant that you had somewhere to live, you had clothes, you had a job. How some children were living really rough in London, on the streets or in slums. And that's the first one. Second one, they've all got fabulous names, these books as well. Sophia Battersea. This is a young girl starting work in service, the kind of job she'd have to do, the fact that she'd have to sleep in the kitchen or in the scullery, the idea of sweethearts, the idea of how seances were quite popular in the Victorian era, freak shows, again, the idea of shame if you were born out of wedlock, the idea that in the freak show there's a woman called Frida, and she's meant to be the giant, and I said to the kids that people are a lot smaller then because they didn't have as much nutrition, so she probably wasn't a giant, she was probably about 6 foot, but to people then she would have been huge. Again, the class system, which is a very continuing thread in these books, but that's how English history has been. There's always been a class system, hasn't there, in the sense of they're up there, we're down here or whatever. So, ta-da! That's Fair Batsy. The next one in the series is Emerald Star, and this one is she goes to the sea, and it's all about the fisher boys then, and the fishermen and the fishwives, and that was a big Victorian industry at the time. Goes on about that, and there's a bit about the circus in this as well. Oh. So where are we now? Diamond. Now Hetty Feather's in this, but it's actually about somebody else, and this is about mental illness and how it was treated at the time, the religion at the time, not having any money, the way that children and women were used as like objects and could very easily be passed on to somebody else, abuse and how little support there was at the time, the circus. Like I say, they've all got language and products in them, stuff like that. Right, this is the last one of the Hetty Feather series, but there's another one with Hetty Feather in it. This one, seamstresses, the idea of money even if class didn't separate you, money could separate you. People on the markets, the music hall. There's an awful lot about the music hall in this, which was a great Victorian thing to learn about. Duty. So one of her foster brothers, who's in a different one, was sent to be a soldier at a very young age, at like 14, and he comes back and all the terrible things have happened to him as well. But there's an awful lot about the music hall in this one, and a sense of that she doesn't want to be a servant, she wants to be something more than a servant. If you can see it shine on the book. Right, last one, but it's Jacqueline Wilson. She just reels books off. There's bound to be another few out, even as I'm saying this. Right. Dancing the Charleston. This one has Hetty Feather in it, but she just cameos at the end. This is set in the 1920s, and it shows you how rich people could be suddenly very bohemian and arty and what's the word, Art Deco and stuff like that. But that wasn't a luxury for the poorer people. And this one again, Shane being born out of wedlock, scholarship girl, the Ideal Homes exhibition, and they've all got pictures in as well. Look, they are. Look, I don't know if you can see it. There's a lady in 1920s fashions. Now suddenly, ladies could cut their hair and ladies could show their ankles, and it was I forgot if I said, and it's just showing you that all of a sudden, no, very, very slowly, and the upper classes mostly, but all of a sudden, ladies had a few more choices. Like in Opal Plume did, I forgot if I said, there's a bit about suffragettes and votes for women, and two real life people who were high ranking names in the suffragettes actually cameo in this book. So this book is after when women have the vote. But, like I say, it does show you how that kind of thing applied to rich people and not poor people. And Harrods in here as well. Harrods in the 1920s. So yeah, I'm just showing you them because... Put that one up there. I'm showing you just as an illustration that you can learn so much from books. And we like Jacqueline Wilson anyway, but the fact that she's doing historical fiction for children, I can read them a book that I know they're going to enjoy, but they're also going to learn tons from. That's just the icing on the cake for me. It's a good job I'm done, because Bud's coming up, so my time's up. If you like what I've got to say, you want to learn more about homeschooling, or I do body positivity as well, please subscribe. I'll see you next time, brand new video. Bye bye.